Well, thank you so much for coming back. We're going to get this one started on time so we can try and then end this session on time and get you back out to the exhibit hall. So again, if you weren't here this morning, my name is Lori Fraley, and I'm the head of the developer relations team within the Intuit developer group. And we're so excited to have so many of you here at the conference. This afternoon, we're going to be going all the way through until the end of the developer track. We're not taking the 10-minute break since we're kind of a single track. We've got a lot of content to cover. We're going to start with some roadmap information, do a couple of demos, give you a sense of what's coming. We've got some great information about taking your app to market and some best practices, and we're going to end with a panel of some of our top developers sharing their wisdom and advice with you. So I think it's going to be a really great afternoon. Most of you should have gotten a raffle ticket when you came in the door. If not, please go grab one. At the end of all the sessions, we're going to be raffling off an iPad mini, so hope that you can stay with us throughout the afternoon. One other note of housekeeping, we're not doing any Q&A during the session as we have a lot to cover. If you do have questions, we do still want to talk with you, so please come up and find us at the end of the track, and we'll be happy to talk with you. And again, without further ado, let me introduce my colleague, Ketan Couture, the Director of Product Management for the Intuit Developer Group.
Thank you, Laurie. Wow. Thanks, guys, for attending the afternoon sessions. Before getting started, a couple questions. How many of you attended the sessions in the morning? Awesome. How many of you are developers who have apps already in our app store today? Okay. How many of you are developers who are in the process of publishing apps to our store? Fantastic. I'll take a few minutes today to share with you our product plans, our roadmap, our priorities for the next year, 9 to 12 months. The intent here is to give you general product direction of where we are taking our Intuit developer platform. And, we have this ongoing thing of getting feedback from you, so would love to hear back from you as well. So, before getting started on the roadmap, wanted to share with you our developer platform priorities. And these are all in service of you as developers, right? And, we had some excellent sessions in the morning, a great demo. And if the intent is clear there is that we want to really take you to the next level as developers, right? So one of our biggest priorities is provide you access to the global customer base of SMBs and accountants worldwide. And Dan showed you the numbers and the growth numbers and the projections we are, and we want to make sure that you have access to that. We want to make sure that you are able to deliver awesome app experiences that solve real customer problems. We want to make sure that you can easily and quickly connect with QuickBooks. And we want to make sure that discovery and usage of your apps is seamless and you make the money that you deserve, right? So anything we do in product today is in service of these priorities and essentially is in service of you to improve your long-term value for your customers. Yeah? So one of the things I love about Intuit, I love about product management at Intuit is we have lean methodology here. We constantly listen to our customers. We talk to them. We have surveys. We have follow me homes. And we've asked you for feedback. And we've gotten a ton of feedback from you. And some of it has been great, and some of it has not been that much great, But everything's welcome. And in fact, everything helps us complete our product, improve our product constantly, right? So some of the feedback we've heard from you is, hey, the developer experience is difficult, need more stability with the APIs, need help with marketing, need a sandbox, need more sample apps. There have been so much of feedback. And, the way we look at this is we rationalize, we synthesize all this feedback, and then we essentially, the vision we came up with is what you've been telling us over time, over years in some cases, is that you're looking for not one hit or two hits. You're essentially telling us that, guys, we need a delightful end-to-end developer journey. Yeah, and we synthesized that and we broke it down into 4 parts. The first one is developer experience, powerful APIs, developer productivity and tools, And then the last one is App Store. And I'll go briefly over each one of those areas, share with you what we've launched today and also what our plans are for the next year as well. So when we say developer experience, and we just launched today what we call a reimagined developer experience, is the entire developer journey end to end, starting from learn and explore to building an app, publishing an app, managing that app, and then essentially constantly tuning the app lifecycle management. Yeah. So what we launched today was addressing some of the feedback that you saw earlier. That hey, it's documentation can be improved. It takes a long time for Hello World. So today you actually saw a demo where we published the entire app in 15 minutes. We had a very visual look and feel now to our developer portal, and we want to sort of keep improving that. You need help with better dashboards and improved publishing. We used to take a long time to get you guys to publish your apps in the store, and now we've got that to even to less than 2 weeks. What we are planning for tomorrow is going long on this experience, right? So we want to make sure that you have now tools to not just quickly discover some of the SDKs visually and see responses visually, but also do no-code integrations, and I'll talk about that later. We want to make sure that CRM is there not just for us and our customers and SMBs, but you as developers can also track how your customers are doing, and we'll help you with that. We want to arm you with rich analytics and reporting tools as well. And these are just some of the priorities that we are thinking through and planning for this year. The next big component of any developer platform is APIs. We launched payments APIs today. But let me just take a step back and explain our thinking around APIs. So our strategy around APIs now is to expand beyond just accounting. We are actually looking at it as an ecosystem API. So all the products within QBO, whether it's payments, payroll, accounting, we want you as developers to have seamless access to all of them through what we call now an ecosystem API. We want this API to be simple, consistent, and easy to use, and this is what our focus is going to be this year to provide you access to that. One quick shout out around our delivery strategy for these APIs is it's going to be iterative. So today we launched the payments beta API. In fact, through the hackathon, a bunch of you guys have actually been hammering on it, creating apps around it, solves for the critical payments use cases, and we've even taken it to the next level. We provided you a sandbox, integrated credentials, tools, and so on. What we want to do going forward is, and Avi alluded to it in the morning, is provide orchestration through these APIs for you across the ecosystem. So let's say that you want to make a sale. So you as a developer care about making a sale with one call. All the accounting complexities we will hide from you. So you make one call, take care of the case. We'll provide you tools for it, an SDK for it, sample code for it, and you're good to go. All the complexities and how it gets reflected into QuickBooks, we'll take care of that. So the way we are going about doing that is we are analyzing what are the top integration patterns within QBO, and then essentially creating orchestration use cases out of it. And then we'll reflect that in an API, and we will have an iterative beta approach where we will continuously be delivering this API over the next year for you to quickly develop on and deliver apps on. While we are doing this, one thing we are going to be extremely mindful of, because you have told us that feedback, is around backward compatibility. You still need access to CRUD, right? There are some developer features like batch updates and so on. We want to make sure that that continues as well as we evolve the API. Okay. Third major aspect of developer platform, end-to-end developer journey, is developer productivity and tools, right? This is about how efficient you are in integrating with a platform. Goes back to our platform priority of quick and easy integration with QuickBooks. And today we took some big steps here, right? We provided you an integrated sandbox, payments and QBO, sample apps, e-commerce and time tracking, visual tool, and multilingual SDK support. Going forward, We want to take this further through this year, right? We want to provide you access to global sandbox. Over the hackathon, we actually got a list of requirements from you already around how we can improve our sandbox and take it to the next level with some vertical data that maps to some of your industries as well. And we'll be working on that. More samples. The way we want to take an approach here is, again, solve for top integration patterns that solve for example, CRM, job costing, and so on and so forth. More SDKs, we'll be working on that. And then, obviously, visual tools, we've got some good feedback around it as well. Avi mentioned this in the morning. We acquired It Does It in July. A fabulous technology, allows for data sync across cloud apps without coding. Yeah. And essentially, the concept here is very simple, right? You can configure the app in minutes, automate your workflow, essentially saving you time, quick publish, get going. Our vision around this is that we want to provide a library of what we call does-its or connectors for you as developers, so you can get started, connect your app to QuickBooks or other cloud applications, and solve for your customer problems very, very quickly. That's our vision. And the way we are going about doing that is, today we are in the process of integrating the It Does It technology in what we call the Intuit Stack. So we've made significant progress over the last couple months since the acquisition. We are actually launching some beta partners with this technology today as we speak. The plan for the next year is a few big experiences. One of them is we want to integrate the It Does It development tools into our developer experience, so you as developers can drag and drop and do no-code integrations with QBO and other cloud applications. The second one is, as I said earlier, library of reusable connectors. And then we are also looking at solving more use cases, providing you access to them through an improved UI. Okay. Last but not least, the cornerstone of extremely sort of popular developer platforms is the App Store, right? That's where everything comes together. That's where you as developers reach your customers. That's how you make money. That's how you expand your markets. And today you saw that we unveiled a new experience of our App Store, and we want to take it to the next level in the next year. A few key experiences that are in our backlog today are, we want to improve the first-time use of your app within our store. So with one sync, the user can get started on your app. We've gotten feedback around it, and we have plans to fix that. We want to make sure that you as developers can publish your app in our store in one click. We want to make sure that our customers, your customers, have access to a rich ecosystem of apps, and they can discover those apps very, very easily. So discoverability is a big theme in our App Store backlog as well. And finally, if you look at the App Store, there are two aspects, right? One is the UI and how you can improve that. I talked about it. Then the other one is the underlying infrastructure in the App Store, which is a rich recommendation engine, making sense of the data, and then surfacing the content in product or across channels contextually. So we are going to invest heavily into that this year as well. So today was a big day for us. We launched a lot of new things. Our vision is to deliver the best platform for SMB cloud apps, and we are eager to work on this and take it to the next level. Want to make sure that you check out our product launches that we announced today. New developer experience at developer.intuit.com, our APIs, as well as a new App Store. And we love hearing from you. It improves our product. It solves a lot of customer problems. So please keep giving your feedback. If you have any questions, I'll be around here. Please find me after the sessions as well. With that, thank you. So, I've been talking about, Avi's been talking about It Does It and what, our plans for it and so on. So I have Roger here and Peter here who will be giving you a demo around It Does It. Before we get started, just have one thought in your mind. Have you ever been in a situation like this?
Hey, Peter. Hey, Roger. Great to see you.
How's it going?
It's going pretty well. How's the new business?
It's great. Well, it's pretty good.
Yeah. So what's not so good?
Well, I like being in business for myself. I like doing what I'm good at. But I hate the part where after I do all that, I have to go out and bug the customers to pay me.
Oh yeah. I hear that from a lot of customers.
It's like I do the work and then,
Nobody wants to pay you. Yeah. I hear that a lot. And I think there's some apps even that solve that.
I wish that, now I have to go out to every customer and bug them and say, please pay me. And I just wish I had like a magic button or something I could press and it would go and pester them all for me, right? Just say, hey, Roger,
That's a really great idea.
Of course.
Tell you what, how about we build an integration that will, just a really simple integration that will look at your invoices, find your overdue invoices, and send them a text message reminding them to pay.
Okay, that sounds kind of complicated, but sure, okay.
Well, it should only take a couple minutes. You want to do it now?
Sure.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
You say so.
So here we have the main interface of It Does It. And what you see here is actually the library of connectors that we already have out there. So basically, if you have an API, we can connect to that API through It Does It. And all of the functions that can be done with that API can be encapsulated as an individual Does It, and then we can wire the Does It's together.
So I can talk to like Google Docs or...
Yeah, you can talk to Google Docs, or in this case, I think what we need is Twilio and QuickBooks. So Twilio sends an SMS message of your choice to the phone number of your choice. So let's just take a look at how we would do that. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new integration. Oh, my login expired. And I'm going to do a custom integration so that I can actually show you guys the full meat of the It Does It capabilities.
You guys? It's just me.
Yeah.
I sometimes feel like we're being watched.
Yeah, we are being watched. It feels a little scripted. But anyway, so we'll go ahead and we'll create a new Does It. And I'm just going to start off with a completely blank Does It. We'll go with a completely blank slate. And I'm going to just put it in a library for me. And we're going to call this, deadbeat reminders.
Yeah, I like that. Perfect.
And so this drops us into the advanced editor. And what we see up at the top are the icons for the connections we already have. And of course, once it does, it's fully integrated into the Intuit Stack. QuickBooks will be there at the outset. And then you can set up the other connections that you need. In this case, I've got QuickBooks and I've got Twilio. So what I'm going to do is we need first the list of invoices,
all my customers,
people who are overdue.
Customers.
Okay, so we got to go grab the deadbeats. So I'm just going to drag QuickBooks in here, and it shows me everything I can do with QuickBooks at this point. So what I need here is an advanced search for invoices. So I'll just select that. And it pops up and shows me what we can do here. So I got to filter a little bit.
Deadbeats. Is there a filter for deadbeats?
Almost. So we've got the open balance is greater than 0, so they owe you money. And we don't really want to. You just sent an invoice. We don't want to text them right away. So maybe wait for them to be overdue. So what we'll do is we'll do the due date is before. How about today?
So just by dragging and dropping that down there, you've got all the options of different ways you can talk to QuickBooks.
That's exactly right.
You pick the one that's going to go through all our invoices and find my invoices that are overdue.
That's right.
That's
so
amazing.
Open balance greater than 0, due date before today. So they're overdue. And that's pretty much all we need to do. I'm not going to worry too much about ordering and so forth. I'll just go ahead and save that.
Now, what just appeared over there on the side? Whoa, did you see this? You've got like a huge version of your screen over here. This is amazing.
So what I have there is what would be returned by that query. So I get back a list of invoices, including the count and so forth. So, now we've got to go through the list of invoices. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a loop in. And so for each item in whatever, so I got to give it an invoice list. So let's give it an invoice list. So now we've got each individual invoice coming into the next step here. And, well, I don't really have the phone number for the customer here. Right. So I got to go grab that customer. So what we'll do here is we'll drag QuickBooks in again. And this time what we want to do is just a very quick query for a customer by ID. And again, all of these are individual doesits that we can wire up. So if you have an API, I can create that dosit quick and easy. You can create that dosit quick and easy. But I'm going to go ahead and grab that customer ID. So the customer ID is right here. And we'll grab that.
It's just amazing. So just by dragging and dropping, you're writing the code.
That's right. And not only that, but now, because I've added another step in here that is actually generating more data for me, I've got the list of customers that come back from that query. And in this case, it's a single customer query, so it's just one customer there. And so what we need to do now is, there's no point in sending them a text message if they don't have a mobile number. So I'm going to go ahead and add an if. Whoops. Just remove that. So I'm going to add an if in here, and I'm going to say, if the mobile number, let's find it, there it is not blank, then I'm going to do something. And what we want to do is we want to actually send a Twilio. We'll send an SMS to them. So we'll drag Twilio in there, and we see everything we can do with Twilio. So I'm going to go ahead and send an SMS message. And again, it wants to know, okay, well, what's the mobile number we should call? So we'll drop the mobile number in there. And then who should it come from? And I've got my Twilio phone number in there. And then we need the message that we would want to send. So how about...
I'm thinking don't use the word deadbeat here. They probably won't take that so well.
Really?
So let's come up with some other words.
All right. So how about we just, instead of saying hi deadbeat, we just say hi first name. Right?
Hey, I like that. You can do that?
So, yep, hi first name. We'll be really gentle here. Okay. So we'll just say, you may have forgotten...
They did.
Invoice... And we'll grab the invoice's doc number. And let's tell them how much they owe.
Yeah, how much they owe me is kind of, that's an important number.
Yeah, so we'll grab the balance out of the invoice. And we'll just be a little bit harsh here.
Please
prompt
pay up.
Payment would be appreciated. Okay, we'll save that. Am I forgetting anything? No, I think that's pretty much everything.
Wait, so that's it?
So that's it. Search for invoices, get the ones that are overdue, find the customer attached to that invoice, make sure they got a mobile number, and send them a text message. Okay, let's how about we...
let's pester my customers. Oh, this is fun.
How about we click this magic button that you mentioned? Okay. Oh. Sorry, Roger. It looks like I owe you some money.
That's kind of why I came over here in the first place. Yeah. See, I have to go through this with all my customers. But thanks to this is great. This now just bugged all my customers all at once. So, I'm willing to forget the $100 that you owe me if you can put this up on a server for me and make it so that not just me but my friends who have the same problem could use this?
Well, that's the beauty of this. We just did that effectively. All we have to do is package this up. We can connect it to the App Store and say, this is our application that reminds deadbeats to pay us. Quick and easy, 5 minutes. And Joe took 15 minutes this morning to publish an app.
We got it. So it does it actually is a pretty amazing tool, and this is just a very quick example of what you can do with it. Do you want to give an example of how we're actually using it in Intuit?
Yeah, sure. So the PayPal beta that went live on the App Store this morning is actually built entirely in this infrastructure. So we are eating our own dog food here.
Yeah, I've got a group. We've been working on a project to deliver timely, relevant, and actionable insights to users based on their QuickBooks data. And we will actually be demonstrating that out on Main Street right after this session is done. So if you come out to the Intuit booth out there, you can talk to me and the other folks there about how we're actually using it, does it, in some of the projects that we're working on right now.
Now that's a pretty shameless plug.
That's what I'm here for.
So I get to do one too. So I do solutions architecture for the Intuit Developer Group. And it turns out there's a really common pattern that I keep seeing in the integrations that we want to do. So let me just go forward a little bit. So you've got your app, and we've got QuickBooks. And generally, most SaaS apps these days have an API layer. And of course, QuickBooks has an API layer. Avi has been talking about the platform, so the API layer is core to that. And of course, we have an app store. So, and most SaaS applications out there have some kind of settings, control panel, and so forth. So the first thing that has to happen is, well, there's the Connect to QuickBooks button. That's the quickest and easiest way to start testing your app connection to QuickBooks. And we have the App Store that's going to start the OpenID single sign-on over to your app. So we have a nice standards-based way of getting sign-up and setup going so that no matter where the user starts, they get set up with the right other end application. And we can actually power that initial setup experience with data. There's the initial OpenID attribute exchange that happens, and so you can bootstrap them into an account in your app if they don't already have an account. And then once you have the OAuth token, you can extract even more data and really bootstrap them. And if you're an e-commerce store, you could get them to where they have an item from QuickBooks online and selling within just a couple of minutes instead of the hours that it could take today. So that's kind of the first stage of everything, and all of that's going to write some config data and so forth. Then you have the ongoing use that has to happen. You've got to move data back and forth between your app and QuickBooks on an ongoing basis. And so everybody's been writing some form of little integration component that generally is loosely coupled. It's not directly tied to their application. It's not built into their application. And it's not built into QuickBooks. That's going to take care of that data pipeline that you need. And so it turns out that It Does It is really the ideal solution there. And for some applications, like our PayPal integration, we don't need the fancy setup because most people already have their PayPal set up and there's not a whole lot to do there. But in the more complex applications, you actually have that basic sign up and setup powered by data, and then you have the ongoing use. And that's where It Does It really shines. That ability to quickly drag and drop mapping of data and define the business logic around that mapping, not just move point A to point B, but actually, if point A and point C do this, then move this other value into point D. That's the power of It Does It, and that's where this is really going to shine.
This was too easy. I want my $100.
Very good. So with that, let me welcome up to the stage Darrell.
That's not me.
I know.
You're coming.
There we go. Okay. And let me just give her a little bit of a plug here. I've been working with developers for 12 years here at Intuit, and what I've consistently heard is the desire to help your application look more like QuickBooks, at least in the parts where you're sharing QuickBooks data. And I am thrilled that we finally have an answer to that. So Darrell, take it away.
So, how many of you have heard us use the word harmony? So we call our design system Harmony, and it's because building the QuickBooks ecosystem is all about creating a harmonious experience for our customers across all their apps and devices. You've already used design systems. Since if you use an Apple device, you know that it feels just like every other Apple device. Material Design is Google's new design system for Android. And design systems create cohesion and delight, and we want you to be able to use ours. So let's back up a little bit. We think that partnering with folks who develop apps that work across the ecosystem is essential to building this awesome, harmonious experience that our customers love. And if you look at QuickBooks, you'll note that this page, Customers, it has a blue button at the top and the blue nav on the left and the tables on the bottom. And it looks just like, oh, good. We'll try it again. We're just having an error, but I'm going to fix it while everyone watches. Well, if you look at QuickBooks here, you'll note that it's just because it's live, so bear with me. Here's what QuickBooks looks like. And you'll note that if you go to vendors, it looks the same. If you go to employees, it looks the same. If you create an invoice, it's going to look, there's a different look and feel with the top bar and the save button at the bottom. And even our mobile apps have the same look and feel. This is because we're all using our design system. And basically, our ecosystem of products share this common look, feel, and behavior across platforms and devices. And so the Harmony Toolkit is where we house all of the resources that you need to design in the QBO ecosystem. But I got to tell you right off, it was originally targeted to Intuit's internal design team, and it's not Bootstrap. It's not a code library. Code is on the way, not there now, but it's more than a library or a style guide. It's really all that you need to design a great user experience. And it is responsive. Ooh, cool. So if you're on the go, you can actually look at it on your mobile device. So let me share a little bit about it with you. First of all, we have our design principles, and if any of you know, it's kind of a foundation to how we make decisions, right? It ladders up to our business goals and helps us communicate so that when I'm talking to my development team, we're both coming from the same page. We know that, for example, we want to maintain user context by staying in place. We also have a whole bunch of visual framework pieces like our color system, and notice we also have it for web and Android. And you can see our color palette. And not only are the colors here, but what you're supposed to use each color for, and potentially why. There's pages for typography. We have an icon font. But the real meat of the design system are our patterns. And for example, this is the drawer. It's a pattern that we have right now for web and iOS. And it tells you things like when to use it. I'm going to go a little slow. How it should behave. There's a demo. You can see a spec and related patterns. Basically, patterns are the basic building blocks for design, and our patterns outline both interaction and visual design, how it works, how it looks, when to use, and why. Code snippets are being added soon, and patterns also help us make relationships across devices so that you can see that we have in the navigation, if I search for it, if I can spell, you can see the relationship between the left navigation on not just the web, but how it looks on the mobile. And finally, we even have patterns that help you make decisions as to which is the right element to use. Move along. So if you go to our button pattern, we actually have a chart that tells you a primary button is used in this case versus a combo button is used in this case. We're constantly getting questions as to what's the right button to use. This helps you make that decision. And then there's our downloads and tools section. So for each type of pattern, whether it's color or typography or insights, etc., I'm going to bump this one up. We just looked at buttons. We have a layered PSD file of all of the elements that you can download and use in all of your layouts. You can use these to wireframe and mock how your app will behave. So if you'd like to create something that looks and feels like the ecosystem, try it out. We're going to launch it next month. There will also be a link from developer.intuit.com. And we're constantly learning and adding more content as we go. It's a live document. So we're really interested in hearing from you and how you can best use it. And that's it.
Thanks, Darrell. So you just got to hear a lot of really great things that are coming soon. A great preview of It Does It from Peter and Roger, that you'll begin to be able to make applications, build them, and get to the App Store very soon. And then our Harmony design patterns as well. Now we're going to turn it over to our next speakers who are going to tell you a lot about 4 best practices for building and launching your application. So please allow me to introduce Ronnie Tay.
Some familiar faces here. I lead marketing for apps.com. So in my role, I get to talk to a lot of small business customers about what their needs are. I also get to talk to a lot of the accountants who are influencers to the small businesses. And of course, I get to talk to a lot of you who are developers providing solutions to those small businesses. And what I'd like to talk to you about for a few minutes now is you've seen some great tools about developing your product, some new tools that we've introduced, a great onboarding process and developer experience. But I suspect that many of you guys who are developers here didn't build to actually use our tools. Right? I suspect that many of you are building apps on our platform to reach customers, to sell customers. And what I'd like to talk to you about is some of the tips and tricks of what I've seen successful developers have done to make their products more discoverable. Okay? So before I get started, let me ask, of those of you guys in the room, how many have apps in the apps.com marketplace already? Okay, just a few of you. Keep your hands up, please. And then how many of you are in the process, have registered yourselves on developer.intuit.com and are about building an app? Awesome. Okay. And then the rest of you, I suppose, are here to understand what our platform is about, to actually build new apps. Okay. So we're going to talk a little about the entire process, from ideation, like what type of app should I be building, to getting on board, building the app and publishing it, and then going to market. How do I get it discovered by our customers? Okay. Now, it all starts with your customer. As I mentioned at Intuit, we speak to a lot of customers, literally thousands of customers every year. Okay? And we hear a lot about what their challenges are, what their passion is, and what consistently comes up when we talk to them is the passion that they have for their business. They've essentially put their lives and their financial situation on the line to essentially follow their dreams. Right? In this case, in many cases, their business isn't an extension of just a standard business. It's part of them. And you'll hear that a lot from our small business customers. You've heard that actually very much this morning in our keynote address, if you've heard from some of the entrepreneurs. It isn't a business, it is part of me. Right? And so we hear a lot about the passion that they have for their business, how they love their business. Now the task of running their business, not so much. Okay? I hear a lot of customers who are very overwhelmed, right? That they love being in charge of running my business, but some days it feels like it's running me. Right? They're overwhelmed. Because as a small business owner, the buck stops with them, right? They wear multiple hats. Many of you folks here who are developers are also small businesses and so can probably appreciate this very much. They do a lot of different things to essentially run their business. We also hear about the passion that they have, but that the reason that they started the business isn't how they spend their day. This is a survey from an independent party. Much of how I spend my days isn't why I went into business. Okay? And this is our challenge. Right? This is why we're here from a platform standpoint and from you as a developer standpoint to essentially help them with that. How do we get them to love every part of their business? Okay? And what we mean by that is you've heard a lot about the small business ecosystem, and I want to sort of frame for you what we mean by the ecosystem. The small business ecosystem essentially helps a small business owner run every part of their business in the cloud. Now, we know that every small business is unique, right? But there are some common tasks, some common jobs that every small business has to do. Okay? First, of course, and obviously very important and potentially the most critical part, is finding those customers, acquiring and managing customers, what we call sales and marketing. Okay? And this category can span many different things, whether it's managing your sales orders coming from your e-commerce site, from your websites, to reaching out on a social setting or being able to acquire customers through social channels or other channels, or if depending on your vertical, it applies to both profit companies as well as non-profit companies, right? To be able to manage either your customers or your donors. Okay? So sales and marketing is one. Once you have your customer, then the next job is to do the work. And this applies to whether you are a product-centric company where you're manufacturing products or shipping products out the door, right? Or you're a services company providing the expertise or the skills to essentially deliver to your customers. And this is where things like project management tools would come in, field service management, job scheduling, time tracking. These are all apps, right, that help essentially a small business do the work for their customers. The third part is operations. Every business has to operationalize all or a part of their business. And what I mean by this is things like inventory management if you're a product company, or if you're a service company, you probably don't have an inventory tool, but you probably have a document management tool because you're delivering documents to your clients. And of course, if you have employees, employee management services. And of course, every business has to account for their business, manage their finances. This is the category that's all about money in and money out. Right? And of course, QuickBooks is a great tool to account for the finances, but we also integrate with apps that allow you to take money in through PayPal, for example, and also to manage your expenses, payroll, or your bills. Okay? Now, this consequently is, several folks have mentioned the fact that we just launched a new apps.com homepage this morning. These are the categories that all apps are listed in to help our small business customers discover those apps in those areas where they need help. Okay? Now, why is the ecosystem important? So for a small business, it's important because we know every small business is unique. So these apps essentially create a customized experience for them. Right? Depending on what your tasks are, what your verticals are, these apps essentially fulfill the ecosystem for you. But also, because they work seamlessly together, they save time. Right? It reduces the amount of data entry, and of course, it improves accuracy because you don't require a manual double or triple entry. Okay? But I think one of the most important pieces, it provides what I call separation of duties. A good example that I always talk about is if you have salespeople in your organization, you certainly want them to have the most current information about the customer, the most current customer contact information. But the last thing you want to do is have those folks, sales folks, essentially go into the accounting package to do that. Okay? But of course, you want that data to be in sync. Right? So also, if the salesperson has to update customer information, you want that to be synced into QuickBooks so that your invoices are sent out correctly. Okay? This is what we mean by an integration within the ecosystem, allowing essentially these different apps to provide the functions that they do to the folks that need to know. Now, for you as a developer, it better serves your customers. As I mentioned, understand who your customer is, build the apps for them, understand what their challenges are. Okay? It's also through our platform much more easier to develop and to integrate with not only QuickBooks, but other systems in the ecosystem. Okay? And of course, through our channel, apps.com, it allows you to reach the millions of small businesses that could use your product. Okay? Now, we've seen the growth of the cloud in our small businesses, even in our QBO subscription base. Recently, we reached 705,000 users, subscribers of QuickBooks Online. That is a remarkable growth. If you listen to Dan's talk this morning, The amount of time that we've reached to our 100,000, last 100,000 is a couple of months versus a couple of years for the first 100,000. So certainly, small businesses, as you're probably very well aware, are moving to the cloud, and we're seeing that in QBO subscriptions. So what do small business customers, what do QuickBooks customers look like? Well, 52% of them provide some level of service. Right? This could be a professional service company like a legal law firm, or it could be landscapers, HVACs. They provide a service to their customers. Typically, they have 1 to 5 employees, and their annual sales are anywhere from $100,000 to $200,000 a year. Okay? These are truly small businesses, but they are very tech savvy. Right? The average, the typical small business uses an average of 18 apps to run their business. Okay? Think about that for yourselves. How many apps are currently on your iPhone or iPads today, right, to run your business? And they're increasingly mobile. They expect to be able to work anywhere. Right? They're also on all the time, and you guys know this as well. Starting a small business and running a small business is not a 9-to-5 job. Right? So they expect to always be on, and more, they're on multiple devices, and they expect those devices to work seamlessly together. I should be able to create a customer record on my iPad, right? Go back to my office on my laptop, be able to create an invoice for that customer, and then when I'm in the field using my mobile device, be able to receive payment. Okay? This is all about seamless integration across multiple devices, being able to work anywhere, anytime. And we've also seen this on apps.com, remarkable growth in terms of the number of apps that users, as QuickBooks users, are using. Just about a year ago, the amount of QuickBooks companies that have used an app or are using an app with their QuickBooks was a little bit over 1%. Okay? Today is at 6.4%. 6.4% of QBO companies or QBO customers are using an app with QuickBooks Online. Okay? Now, part of the reason for that growth is obviously the QuickBooks Online subscription rate, but I believe that a big part of that growth is developers like yourselves. Right? The quality of apps, the types of apps that are being launched into the ecosystem essentially enables these small businesses to run more parts of their business using QuickBooks and the ecosystem. Okay? So let me leave you with that. I'm going to hand it off to Pearce, and I'll come back a little bit later. So I just talked to you about understanding your customer. Pearce is going to talk to you about, well, how do you use our platform to get your products out to market, to publish?
So my name is Pearce Aurigemma, developer evangelist, now with the Intuit Developer Group. So it's a cool new name for everybody. In this second part, I'm going to talk about building and publishing your app. So I'm going to talk about it in 2 phases. I don't have enough time to dive too deep into the code. I want to talk more about the iterative process that you can take to get your app listed, or to take advantage of any additional features where you can get more users seeing your app, get more connections, get more users connecting to your app. So I'm separating this out into 2 pieces because there's 2 groups in this audience. One is existing apps who are already listed, and one is new apps, people who are building a new application. So let's start with those who are building a new application. I highly recommend you don't take this as a huge project and finish it in a month or 2 months and crunch through it as hard as you can. Start small. We just talked to you about using It Does It. It's a great way to approach early, easy, and simple, so that way you can test early and see how the users feel using your application. And even when you're using It Does It, you don't need to integrate with every single entity that we have available. Start with a minimum set of entities. And you could do this whether you're using It Does It or you're connecting directly. So now you're starting to take an iterative approach. You're starting to connect with a minimum set of entities. You have an application that people can start using. Well, what do? Well, we have a concept of a publish to beta. We used to call this publishing privately. We're calling it publish to beta now. But essentially what it means is you can onboard as many users as you'd like to test your application. Well, the next obvious next step is what? You need users. Well, where do you find users? Well, I've heard of this concept or this conference. It's called QuickBooks Connect, where you might be exposed to thousands of users that you can talk to today. Right? You could be out there talking to users today. Get beta testers, build relationships with accountants, small businesses, anybody who will be using your app, you can do that today. Now I'm going to give you a little bit of an insider secret, though. If you Google the phrase, find a pro advisor, it'll land you on a web page that will allow you to find a pro advisor. Pretty obvious, right? Now, don't abuse this, but you can email them and get their phone numbers and call them directly. Now, if you're going to do that, remember, they're doing you a favor. They're doing you a favor, so don't forget that. Treat them like the gods and goddesses that they are. They are so important. And so remember that and give them discounts. Do whatever you can to facilitate the relationship and get feedback from them. So now again, you see how we're iterating through different stages. The next thing you're going to want to do is, now that you have reviews, now that you understand what's going on with your application, you're going to start iterating on the Intuit requirements. Take them one step at a time, measure, experiment, and test to make sure that you're building the best integration that you possibly can. And then lastly, you're going to get published and you're going to get reviews. From where? Well, you already have beta testers that you've already talked to. And it's really important that you don't treat reviews as a single point. You don't treat reviews as a single project. Incorporate getting reviews for not only apps.com, but iPhone App Store and Google Play. Incorporate getting reviews into your process. And you'll see how that can be really valuable in a minute. So now let's change directions and say, for those of you who are already on apps.com, what can you do? Well, we know from our data that applications that connect from QuickBooks and an app are much more satisfied with their experience and are much more likely to stay around and continue to use your products. So it is up to you to do a marketing campaign to your existing user base to facilitate those connections. Now, once you've built this marketing campaign to facilitate the connections, what else can you do? Well, one of the biggest successes that we see from our best companies, especially companies like T-Sheets that you'll see out on the floor, is they have a support process where they're calling people directly when they start trials. QuickBooks certified professionals who know the product. And this results in fantastic reviews for them. But again, let's take an iterative approach to this. Have a couple of your support specialists or sales guys or account managers become QuickBooks certified. And when you send out a survey, traditionally, you have a ticket. You'll send out a survey afterwards to say, how did that experience go? Well, if it's a 5-star review, then you can compare those support specialists who are QuickBooks certified versus those who aren't and see if they're having a higher average rating. If that's working well for your business, incorporate that amongst all of your support specialists or account managers. And lastly, again, continue to get reviewed in your process. Now, you notice I said get reviewed twice because it's so very important. Now, coincidentally, I'm going to talk about method. They won, but I had this in the presentation beforehand. They have a process in place for every support exchange that they end with a positive result. They ask for a review. So what's the result of that? Well, of course they're going to get lots of good reviews. But since they incorporate it with every single support request, when they improve their business, it cascades. So there's a really cool article that I linked at the bottom of these slides that talks about how Method improved their user experience by switching from a single point of contact to category experts. So when they made this switch, it improved the user experience so much. It improved it so well that they now have a strong 5-star average with over 600 reviews because it cascaded into their review process or into getting more reviews for them. Now, one of the things that is going to incorporate both new apps and existing apps in getting published is you need to think about, are you going to go global? You can go global from day one, or you can go global from an iterative process. After you go to apps.com, you can go to any one country at a time, or you can go to all of them. It just depends on how your business works. So we have 4 major regions: UK, Australia, India, and Canada. And let's see who is paying attention. Do you know the new one that Dan talked about this morning? France. Yes, it's France. So those are our major regions, and we're onboarding developers on a regular basis to be listed in country-specific pages. Now, we have some interesting information and interesting growth about being listed in each country. Although we are clearly the market leader in the United States, we're having tremendous growth in each one of these regions that we're focusing on. And for example, Canada is one of the best candidates to start with first for a global country because it's very approachable. They are very familiar with working with U.S. companies. Canadians are very familiar with working with U.S. companies. So they're going to be very easy to onboard to your application. The next country that I highly recommend that you go into after Canada is going to be the United Kingdom. And one of the main reasons why is because their country is very internet focused, one of the highest user bases that will be purchasing online. And that translates into accounting as well. Next, we're going to be talking about Australia. Now, to be perfectly honest, it's kind of scary. I don't know if I want to go to Australia and see some kangaroos. It could be scary. But when you're approaching it from a tax rate perspective, solving taxes can be kind of confusing. But in Australia, their really strict, flat 10% GST rate makes it easier and more approachable when you're implementing and designing tax rates for that country. And also, make sure you spell Centre that way. I almost got yelled at by our Australian teams not to do it. And then lastly, India. So India is a huge, huge market. But I'm going to preface with this. You need to approach India with a strong strategy. You need to be able to go into that country and probably reduce your app by a half, by 2/3 of the price of what you would charge in these other countries. If you can't do that and you don't have an approach, you're not going to get the type of traction that you want. So make sure you really take that into consideration before going into the country. And again, France is going to be new, so we're still learning about how that will take into play. Finally, I want to talk about all the considerations for every single global country that you're going to go into. So we're talking about, or I was just talking about the 4 major countries that we focus on. You can go and launch your app in any country. We just don't have specific pages for those. But if you do go into any country, you're going to want to take each one of these into consideration. And I highly recommend you pay attention to support. You don't want someone, for example, in India, trying to call up your support number, in United States support number, and you don't have someone awake at that time. So take those things into consideration. Now, to take the next steps to go global, I want to suggest that you test your QuickBooks integration with the specific country that you want to launch in. So create a QBO trial account for that specific country, run through some tests to make sure it's going to work. Once you've done that, you can go onto the developer.intuit.com, submit a support ticket at this URL, and that'll start your review process to get listed in those pages. And additionally, I'm going to be up here, so if there's something you're interested in is to go global, come chat with me, I'll give you my card, and we can walk through the process and I'll give you some help with that. So that covers my part on getting your app launched. Remember, take an iterative approach to building your app. If you're already on apps.com, take an iterative approach to improving, getting new users, and getting reviews. And when you're ready to go global, again, I suggest an iterative approach. Approach each country if that's appropriate for you. Test in each country, then reach out to us to get supported. Now I'm going to welcome back to the stage Ronnie Tay.
Awesome. So we just talked to you about a little bit of rehash, right? I'm hoping that you got a little bit of insight about our small business customers and your small business customers and understanding who your customer is. Pearce just walked you through some helpful tips of going on board and building your app. What I'd like to do now is actually leave you with a couple of tips on how to get discovered, right? How to market your app once you've built it. Okay. Now, a great foundation of any marketing effort is a positioning statement. Here's a template for one that Jeffrey Moore and Crossing the Chasm has used, but it's quite simple. But what it does provide for you is some guidance for your future marketing strategies and what your product does today. And let me go through it just a little bit. Who is your target audience? An obvious question, right? Oftentimes, when I ask that to a developer, what I hear back is small businesses. Right? That isn't a target customer. It's too broad, right? What is it about that target customer base that you're addressing with your solution? What is the name of your product? A very obvious one. Provide a frame of reference for that. What is it about that product that is familiar to a customer? Okay? And what is your key benefit? It's not a slew of lists of features and benefits, but what is the one key benefit that you're addressing for that particular target market? And what are the alternative solutions? What are small businesses doing today to accomplish what your app is doing? And what are your key differentiators against that business? Okay? So let me give you a good example. Everybody familiar with Amazon.com? Right? When they first started in 2001, they were a very small company. Right? And what they did was they had this positioning statement. This is only when they sold books. And let me go through it with you. For worldwide web users who enjoy books, Amazon.com is a retail bookseller that provides instant access to over 1.1 million books. Unlike traditional book retailers, Amazon.com provides a combination of extraordinary convenience, low prices, and comprehensive selection. So let's go through that a little bit, right? Who's their target user? They didn't say internet users or World Wide Web users. They focused specifically on World Wide Web users who enjoy books, right? And Amazon.com, they compared themselves to something very traditional, not very sexy at all, but a retail bookseller. But that is what their customer base was familiar with. And the one key benefit, they have several benefits that they could have touted, right? But one of the biggest ones that they had just to differentiate themselves was access to over 1.1 million books. What retail bookseller is going to allow you to enable you to do that, right? And unlike their competitor or these alternative solutions, unlike traditional book retailers, here's how they're different. Extraordinary convenience, low prices, and comprehensive selection. All very easy terms for their target customers to understand, okay? This positioning statement is very important because it provides a guideline for you. Is it simple? Is it memorable? And is it something that you can own? Right? Is it credible? Right? Is it unique enough to you that your solution actually delivers against this promise? Right? And if it is, it will provide for you a way to drive and evaluate your marketing decisions going forward. Are you on brand? Are you continuing with your positioning statement? Are you being focused in the one thing that you're delivering? Okay? And if it's a good positioning statement, it will allow you to grow, just like Amazon.com has been growing from outside traditional booksellers to even bigger. Okay? So once you have your positioning statement, you need to tell your story. Okay? And you've heard a lot this morning and today about how the small businesses today are very passionate about what they do. So that your story needs to be very authentic. It needs to come from you. Are you making a connection to their passion? How are you improving their lives? Right? And a story isn't a list of features and benefits. Right? As I mentioned earlier, small businesses don't view their businesses as separate to them. It's part of them. So how is your app, how is your solution representing them? Right? Are you reaching into essentially into their passion? And are you inspiring action for them to improve themselves through your app? Okay? And as Guy Kawasaki keeps saying, never stop pitching. So you keep telling your story. Listen to what your customers are saying about it, get some feedback as you're telling this story, and continue to refine. Okay? Now, today, the number of places that you can tell your story is unprecedented. Right? Anything from traditional PR to email, today, social blogs, webinars. The cost effectiveness of actually reaching out to your customers through these mediums is extensive and, as I mentioned, unprecedented. I want to mention the fact that it's not all about selling all the time, and many apps today sell quite well. What they do, in addition to that, is actually position themselves as thought leaders in that space. So content is very valuable. Even if you don't ever mention your product in that content, it establishes yourself as a thought leader in that space. So content is important, but what's more important in getting your message out is starting to build that relationship with your customer. Okay? Now, apps.com is a channel. And it's a pretty good one to reach small businesses. We reach 1 million unique visitors on average every month coming to apps.com. 600,000 of those every month shop. And what I mean by shop is they don't just land on the home page, but they hit other pages inside apps.com, so they're shopping. They're looking around the site. Okay? An app card is that page on apps.com that represents an app. So on a monthly average, app cards as an aggregate get 100,000 visitors a month. Okay? So it's a great channel. It certainly isn't the only channel that you need to use to essentially reach your customers with your app. Okay? Let me dive in a little bit deeper. This is an app card. So apps.com exists as its own standalone website, right? But also as a channel inside the QuickBooks Online product. It's a good looking app card. Thank you, Matt Rissell, CEO of T-Sheets. But this is an app card inside QuickBooks Online, and you'll notice a couple of different things here. Remember that positioning statement I mentioned? That positioning statement drives how you describe your app, your value proposition to customers in these app cards. Keep in mind, right, there's hundreds of apps. People are going into QuickBooks to accomplish a task. Typically, they're not in there looking for apps. So you need to have a clear positioning statement so that your value proposition is very clear to them. What does your app do, and who is it for? Is it for people like me with my challenges? Okay? Let me also give you a little bit of insight about once they hit this app card inside QuickBooks, where do they go next? Okay, so 27% of clicks go to this scroll bar where we're showing different screenshots. Okay? 19% of them are getting enough compelling value propositions where they're clicking on the try button. So that's significant, right? Because an app for a small business is not like an app that you and I may use on our iPhones as a consumer. Because you and I can take a look at the Apple App Store, download an app, probably take 30 seconds to evaluate whether is this going to work for me or not, hold it down if it doesn't, let it shake, and click the X button to delete it. Small businesses don't go through that process, obviously, right? They need to understand, am I going to invest my time to evaluate this app? Because I need to understand how it works with my data, how it works with my existing processes, and how it works with my employees. It's a significant amount of time for them to essentially commit themselves to trying this app. So the fact that you're able to extend your value proposition and your positioning to these app cards and get them to click on the try button, that is a significant win. Okay? The next places that they click on is to look at additional slides, additional screenshots, if you will, right, of the app, because that gives them an idea about what does the app do. As you know, we're all very visual, so a picture is worth more than 1,000 words, so get your positioning correctly, but also support that positioning with your screenshots, with your visuals. And the other piece is pricing. Small businesses are small businesses, which means they're very cost conscious, right? So is it even worth my time as a small business owner to consider this app if I'm not going to be able to afford it anyway, right? So get your pricing clear, and we'll display it essentially on apps.com this way. Okay. Now, of course, we don't do it ourselves. Partnerships are a great way to get your products out, and partners to us includes yourselves as developers, but also our accountant friends, because as you know, they're big influencers to small businesses, and no small business owner in their right mind is going to adopt any app that touches their QuickBooks data without actually at least contacting or consulting with an accountant. Right? They know better than that. Right? So they are, in one sense, recommenders at one end, or maybe influencers at the other end, but they will be consulted about whether I should try this app or not, because they don't want to be, they don't want the hand slapped at the end of the quarter when data has changed and the accountant has to fix it. Right? So they'll consult with their accountants. And we know they are very effective in essentially helping us with our ecosystem. When an accountant is involved in the consideration of QuickBooks Online, we see a 38% increase in QBO conversion. That's huge, right? But actually even more important than that is we see a 20% increase in what we call Net Promoter Score. And Net Promoter Score essentially gauges how much our customers love our products, right? So not only are they converting better, but they're loving the product better. Okay, so accountants are a huge channel, are huge influencers to our community. Developers are also a huge influencer. We also know that when a customer signs up for a QBO plus an app during their trial period versus just QBO itself, we see a 33% increase in QBO conversion. They're starting their ecosystem. Right? Not only are we seeing the increase in conversion, but they're also staying better, staying longer. Retention rate increases by 6%, 6 months after the trial. Okay? So partners are key. We recognize the fact that you are part of our ecosystem and are helping us essentially with meeting the needs of our small business customers. And of course you know that getting your product out in the market isn't the end point. In many cases, it's a starting point. Right? So once you get out in the marketplace, you need to measure, refine, and continue to repeat. Improve your product. Listen to those feedbacks. We talked about the importance of user reviews. It's always great to get 5-star user reviews. Right? That tells the tales for your product. Sometimes you're not going to get that. Right? And that is a blessing in disguise. Right? If you get a negative review, and you probably experienced this in Amazon or maybe if you use Yelp, oftentimes when I read that, I'm less reading about the review itself, but how the owner responds to that review. Right? Is this owner helpful? Are they defensive? Or are they approachable and helpful in addressing the situation and correcting it? Right? So that's very important. Now, each of your metrics, each of the ways you're going to measure your app is going to be slightly different depending on your product. What I can do is share with you how we look at your app, how we measure your success on the marketplace, on apps.com. And we measure it in 3 metrics: app card visitors, trials, and paid subs. So app card visitors, as I mentioned, we get about 600,000 shoppers a month into our store. How many of those actually get to see your app card? Right? So what that tells me is that you are in the right category. Our customers are finding you, right? That you are solving a need. They're finding you as a possible solution to essentially meeting that need. Okay? Now, What do you do? What happens to those customers that visit those app cards? How many of them are converting to click on the trial button, to try your app? So what that tells me is that your positioning and your value statement is right on. Right? You're compelling enough that you're engaging a small business owner to click on that try button. Okay? The third one is paid subs, paid subscriptions. Right? So the endpoint. Right? How many of those trials are converting to a paid subscription for you? Right? And that to me tells me that your product experience, the app experience that customers have with your app, matches your promise. Right? And that's almost sort of the key differentiator for you, right? That you are promising and you're delivering that promise with the app. Okay? So let me leave you with a couple of challenges. So wherever you are in your development process, whether you're still thinking about developing an app, you're trying to look for what am I solving, or whether you're in the process already in developing the app and you haven't published yet, or you have an app in the marketplace already on apps.com already, let me challenge you to actually take that next step. Take some of the insights and some of the tools we've just given you today. Take the next step. Build your app if you haven't already started one. We gave you some insights on what a small business customer looks like and what their challenges are. If you have an app in the development process already, publish it. We talked about the way to publish beta. So that's a great way of getting initial feedback. Publish beta allows you to get the app out there. Actually allows you to get an app card out there as well with a URL. It just won't be posted on apps.com. But you can send that URL to your beta customers to get feedback, not only on your app, but because you have also an app card on your value proposition positioning. Is this compelling? Would you click on the try button if you saw this in the App Store? Okay. And then if you're already on the apps.com site, get additional reviews, get feedback. Right? What are customers liking about your app? Right? What are they not liking about your app? And make that refinement. And you haven't gone global with us. Pearce showed you some remarkable hockey sticks charts, right, about the traction that our global sites are having. Get in the coattails of that, right? Get on the coattails of that. We're very early on, essentially, in our global growth, but we're seeing a huge traction in global, and that's a huge opportunity for you if you do it the right way. Okay? So let me leave you with that, and thank you for your time.